Hello, third and fourth grade. Welcome to reading class today on April 15th. Last time you were reading the certain section up to page 55 in May B. So I was reviewing that section for a little bit, and it seems to me, and after reading all of your reading journals, which your entries are very good, please make sure though, from what I am seeing, you want to make sure that you have at least 3 sentences for your summary. The rest can be 1, and that's fine, but make sure you have 3 sentences. Also, write them neatly. You don't have to do them in cursive, but write them neatly, please, so that I can follow it and see what you're writing. You also need to label the top, label the page numbers so I know what section you are looking at. I hope that you're enjoying the book so far, and today we are going to work through together pages 56 through 68. You are going to do pages 69 through 81. We are also going to do a vocabulary activity in addition to that. All right, let's get started. So I was taking a look in the book, and you should have your book and your reading journal and something to write with as well. And as I was looking in the book, I was taking a look actually between pages 46 and 47. And it was quite an interesting section because, as you know, Mr. Oblinger left, and Mrs. Oblinger and May were left by themselves. And obviously the roof's leaking, it's not a fun situation. And at one point, Mrs. Oblinger says on top of page 47, if you want to follow along, on 47, she says, "I hate this place," she whispers. Before I think better, I say, "He's left a shade tree out front, he's plastered the walls, and he's putting in a proper floor." And she says, "What do you say?" Does she even remember I'm here? "Mr. Oblinger is a good man," I try again. "He wants to make this home for you." And then she says, "You think plaster makes a difference in this place? Look at this, it's filthy in here. The ceiling leaks, sometimes snakes get through." And remember, that's something that we did talk about when we did pre-reading activity with soddies. So obviously living in a sod house is not ideal, but it seems like Mr. Oblinger is making the best of it. He's trying to make things nice for her, but she does not seem to want to be there. Something else I thought that was interesting in the last section, and it also talks about how she has a letter on page 54. She's up now, sitting at the table. He's given her the coffee, thick from waiting on the stove. She holds a letter, stares at it for a long time, folds it, stands, pushes past the doorway into sun and open prairie. So I'm wondering, what I did for the prediction for me is I'm thinking Mrs. Oblinger is going to run away. That's my prediction, because it seems like no matter what happens, she doesn't like it. And I think Mr. Oblinger hired maybe to help with the house stuff, but also wanted to have a female friend, a companion for Mrs. Oblinger, because she's so miserable. And May is trying her best, but it seems like no matter what she says, Mrs. Oblinger is just not happy about it and doesn't want to be there. So let's find out. So I wrote down, maybe I put the page numbers. This is what you should be doing in your reading journal. Make sure you write your page numbers. And I wrote, my prediction is Mrs. Oblinger will run away. And we're going to read today to find out, does it happen or not? So please follow along in your book on page 56, and we're going to go through 56 through 68. Mr. Oblinger and Mr. Chapman split logs, lay planks. I bring out the pail and dipper and offer them a drink. Mr. Chapman nods his thanks. His beard's fuller than Mr. Oblinger's, but his clothes nonetheless look like town. Seems like all the folks west of home are new. Even so, Pa would approve of their labors. Many hands make light work, he'd say. That is actually an expression that there's less to do if more people are helping. Light work means less work. So for instance, if I said, we need to clean the classroom, and you're all sitting there while I do it, it's going to take me longer, but if we all join together, the job will be less. They labor until the furniture is restored to its rightful place. There is only the entryway to complete. The men shake hands. Much obliged, Mr. Oblinger says. Mr. Chapman shrugs. It's what neighbors do. I'd appreciate if you could check in on my place once or twice. I'm going east for a visit. May not be back before the first snow. So it sounds to me like when he says much obliged, Mr. Oblinger, that's a way of saying thank you. I'm obligated to help you. Like, because you helped me, I'm going to help you. And Mr. Chapman says, well, I'm your neighbor, so I'm actually going to leave for a long time. So if you could go and just check on my house to make sure everything's going okay there, I'd appreciate it. It's kind of like if you go on a trip and you ask your neighbors to come and check your house. That's what Mr. Oblinger is being asked to by Mr. Chapman. Mr. Chapman's like, yeah, it's fine. I love helping you, but can you check on my house? And he's like, sure. So it's a nice agreement. A fine breeze stirs, the sunflowers nod. The day he chooses to go riding, usually she stays close, like a tethered calf. Pack some biscuits, will you, May? I want to see all that I can. The prairie's so beautiful today. She's never spoken that way before. Tell my husband I'll be a while. Don't count on me for dinner. When Mr. Oblinger hears, he smiles. It's good to see her happy. Maybe I'll be done with this floor before she's back. So it sounds like she's going to go riding, Mrs. Oblinger, and she wants May to pack her some food. Mr. Oblinger is thrilled that she finally seems happy to be there. Page 58. I stop Mr. Oblinger as he works to remind him to eat. My day's quiet. I mend and iron. I work numbers and look at a passage in my reader, the one Hiram helped me with, about the vastness of the ocean, the limitlessness of the sea. His voice in my head helps me when I stumble. I've never seen water spread straight to the horizon. These endless grasslands are sea enough for me. The Sadi is like an island far from any shoreline. My home is out there somewhere. To me, a world away. Maybe because the day is different, it takes me time to notice the note left on the bedside crate where she always kept her Bible. This is the note. Do you notice how the print is written differently? So this section is what the note looked like. Mr. Oblinger, you've been so kind, but I can't stay. I'm taking the train back to Ohio. Please understand, Louise. I whisper the words, go through the letter several times, and I understand. Mrs. Oblinger is gone. It looks like my prediction was correct. The biscuits. She planned to make this look like a simple ride, but she prepared ahead of time. Mr. Oblinger works. The floor is almost done. For her. I hand him the message. The missus left this. He walks outside to read in the light. I pull farther back in. This is his business, not mine. I busy my hands with sweeping the almost finished floor. I need to get to town, he says. She probably doesn't remember the way. He reaches for his hat and in his haste almost trips over the scattered wood. Don't worry about supper, he says. I could be gone sometime. He hitches the other horse to the wagon, lays his rifle across his knees and drives, fast as lightning sparks fire, quick as flames consume the prairie. So Mr. Oblinger is going after her. Even at home, if Pa and Ma drive into town, I've got Hiram for company. And there's Bessie in the barn and the laying hens. Here, there's no cow yet, no chickens roosting. I watch the wagon until I see nothing on the open plain. For the first time ever, I am alone. Fear flashes inside me. Pa never left Hiram and me without protection. All around me, there's nothing but the prairie and the sky. Silly girl, I tell myself. There's no reason to worry, but it takes a time for my heart to slow. I stretch out on the grass. Sweet sunshine warms my face. I stay like this all afternoon. My chores can wait. I wake to evening shadow, confused. The wagon is still gone. Inside, I pick an apple from the barrel, light a candle, and work numbers on my slate. So he's not getting back yet, and she's there by herself. When I wake up, my slate falls to the floor. The candle's burned out. Morning light filters through the papered window. The other bed is empty. The missus must have made it far if they stayed in town overnight. I have to fetch the water, gather fuel for the stove. Some string beans might be ready to pick. They'll need a good meal when they return. I weed the garden and watch toward town. Nothing moves against the horizon. For a time I sit on my heels, the soddy at my back, the open prairie before me, waiting. There is still no sign of the Oblingers. By the time I've reached the last garden row, I stand and wipe the dirt from the front of my dress. Surely they'll be back for supper. So he left the day before, so she had overnight and now the whole next day, and he's still not back. So now she's basically trying to keep herself busy, but wondering what is going on. And she was talking about in the past when she lived at home, she at least had her brother there or animals and the farm to take care of. But right now, since Mr. Oblinger is just getting started, he doesn't have any animals. So she's literally there all alone by herself. The beans have cooked so long, they are like lumpy corn mush. I sit in the rocker with the door open wide. Maybe something has happened to them. I dread the blackness growing stronger outside. In bed, I hear the sounds I miss when others sleep nearby. The breeze rattles at the papered window and pushes at the door. Burrowed in the quilt, I hug my knees, try not to listen. I know there's something moving near the stove. A mouse. Not a footstep, I tell myself. I would have heard the wagon and the welcome sound of voices. Goose flesh ripples up in my arms. I squeeze my knees tighter. When will morning come? And that's the end of that section. So let's take a look. We want to summarize what all happened. So we have quite a bit left to do here. So my prediction is Mrs. Oblinger will run away. Okay? So she did run away. So Mrs. Oblinger left. To go home. I guess to go back to, I think, what was it? If I'm looking back in this section, I'm trying to think, Ohio. So she wanted to go back home to Ohio. Mrs. Oblinger left to go back to Ohio. Mr. Oblinger went after her. We could just say May is left alone. I'd say for now it's for a couple days in this section anyway. So it's not like he left and then came back at the end of the day. It sounds like she hadn't really had that much of a head start. So I can see why May is confused. May is like, well, they'll be back eventually. Why is this taking so long? And so she's assuming they're staying overnight somewhere. So connect. Well, she's afraid. Have you ever been afraid? I guess my connection is I have been afraid when I was alone. And I think the thing is too with a soddy, there's really not that much protection from outside environment, from remember we read about snakes, rodents, things getting in, because they're literally in the ground. So she thinks she hears something by the stove. And it's probably something that, because she's awake and she's alert, she hears everything. Whereas if someone else is there, you're not worried as much and you just sleep. So, question, when will they get back? And I'd say specifically Mr. Oblinger. I'm kind of thinking Mrs. Oblinger is not going to make it. Evaluate. Do you think it was right for Mr. Oblinger just to leave her? I don't think he anticipated being gone that long. So I guess I can see why he just dropped everything. But I don't know. I mean, to leave her there all by herself, I'm not sure if I quite agree with that. But I don't think he was thinking straight. I think he just reacted. I think he just read it and is like, I gotta go find her. And he didn't think about him being gone for long. He basically said, don't have supper, meaning that he would be back later in the evening. So I'm just gonna say I don't think Mr. Oblinger should leave May for so long. I just think he had just one thing on his mind was Mrs. Oblinger. Like he didn't even think about her as his responsibility. And he should have thought of that. And then finally, visualize. You know, my drawing ability. That's a mouse. I think that's the mouse that she thought she saw by the stove. Okay? So that would be mine. And you can, again, feel free points, take them, take these. So your responsibility is to do pages 69 through 81. Now, in addition to that, so you should have 2 journal entries, one for 56, 68, yours is 69 to 81. So continue on, do that below. Now, in addition to that, you do have an assignment in your packet. It's a vocabulary activity, okay? And let's take a look at that. Why don't you make sure, if you don't have it, pause the video and get it, and then come back. All right, so it says, please complete the table by defining the vocabulary words with a general definition and a synonym, word that means the same as the original vocabulary word. Also add a picture to show you understand the meaning of the words in the last column. The picture should represent the definition that is used in the novel. I provided page numbers so you can find the words in the book. Okay, so you look at number 1, it's planks. It says page 56. So we're going to turn to page 56. And it says, Mr. Oblinger and Mr. Chapman split logs, lay planks. Remember, that's when they're putting the floor together. So we need to figure out, what does the word planks mean? So you know that they're splitting something, they split logs and they lay planks. So what is a general definition? Couple things. When you are doing vocabulary, general definition means a definition in your own words. Or if you find the definition and you understand it, you can write that down. I don't want you copying dictionary definitions where you have no idea what they're even saying. What's the point of that? Okay? So if you look it up, and I'll give you the first one, which is planks. So I'm going to get rid of this. If you don't have this, go back in the video and you will see it. Okay? So let's take a look. And I'm not going through the whole thing. I'll go through the first one with you. So you see it has and then you have the word planks, right? And it has the page number. General definition. What I have was, after looking, a long, thin, actually long because it's plural, long, thin pieces of wood. Synonym, looked up some, actually slabs. It's a word that means the same. So make sure that you understand what these mean. So planks are long, thin pieces of wood. Another word for that is slabs. That's what, like the foundation, the house is being put on. And then as far as the picture goes, I just did something simple where I just did long pieces of wood put together as a foundation for something. Sorry about that, make that straight. Okay, so your responsibility is to complete the rest of this vocabulary activity and to do pages 69 to 81 in your journal for tomorrow. All right, I hope you understand the lesson. I look forward to having reading class again with you soon. Bye.